Uh, both me and John got desks in our rooms like a bunch of nerds.
Yeah, man, my whole
I
shit
got
is,
desks at my parents. Relax. Oh my goodness. Shots
you know, that's an
fired.
L-shaped desk though, bro. I got desks over here. I got desks over here. You can't even see the desk.
I got a desk and a couch. Well, my computer desk. Yeah, man, I'm ready, bro. Whatever you are.
But all right. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Hometeam podcast on July 8th, just after national holiday. Talking about NBA Summer League. We're talking about free agency, extreme weather. I don't know why I pluralized that. Talking about Russia, Ukraine, what's going on in France. Let's hop into it, boys.
Let's do it.
Okay, so for the quick hitters, boys, I got, these are short answer questions, right? I just want to see what's going on. Number one, what is your personal most exciting summer league team in the NBA? Who are you looking for? The game's just started. We got the Vegas League going. We're going to be in Cali pretty soon. Who are you guys looking for?
Yo,
NBA is pretty simple. It's Spurs Nation, baby.
you already know, bro.
Wemby?
LA all day. Webby about to be a flop. You know what I'm saying? What's that LA dude? The one in the summer league is murking shit right now, putting higher stats up than Webby.
Max Christie, let's go, baby.
Let's go. That's what I'm saying.
Max Christie, the young
Yellow,
buck
baby,
from
yellow.
Indiana. Michigan
God,
State
you could
grad.
have, John, you could have said Colin Powell, and he would have just said, "Yeah, let's go."
I know
I'm pretty sure Eeb would have caught that, man. That man has no jumper.
I know who Cole Powell is.
Max Christie put up numbers though, man. They're
Fucking
saying
war
that he was the
criminal.
only person on the not the no touch list last year during the trade deadline. So obviously the Lakers recognize that Max Christie is the future, right? He's young, 19, maybe 20, 5-star kid. He had some great times at MSU. He also is a streaky shooter. He's got a lot of growing to do, but he's got immense potential, right?
Yeah.
Also, so Eeb talked about this before. He said in our prior to when we jumped on the podcast, he said in 5 years Wemby won't be the best player from this draft.
Yeah.
So my next question is, no explanation. Who's the best player from this draft?
I didn't watch this draft. I don't know what's going
Damn.
on.
Sam, you got an answer? Who's your guy, man?
Yeah.
You a big Brandon Miller guy? I mean, he schooled Jordan one-on-one. You know, Jordan's getting old.
Wemby's number one. It's not. Wemby's number. I do like Brandon Miller. He is a cold-blood. He's like Buddy Hield in terms of comps. I say, in my opinion, he's a very good shooter, athlete, but he's an amazing shooter. I put him as Buddy Hield right now, and I do like the twins. The Thomas. I do like the Thomas.
One of them's in Detroit, right? One of them's in Detroit, right?
Yeah, both of them are very good IQ players. High IQ players, and then B. Scott Henderson is also nice too. My favorite is Wemby. I think you could legitimately say you have 5 to 6 All-Stars in this class. Potential All-Stars.
I think the class is
we need another 2003 draft is what we need. Yeah,
I think it could. I think this could be one of the best draft classes in a while.
Yeah, man, I'm excited, man. My summer league team is the Rockets. I mean, because they had two top 10 picks. They got a lot of talent in there, a lot of young talent. I mean, the Pistons obviously would have been my number one, but we got some young bucks. For the
what's
Rockets.
up with Cade though? Cade,
what do you mean? What's up with him?
Is he all right? Like he looks like he'd be looking like fat in the summer, bro. Anyway, I just saw some photos. Anyway, move on.
He said he looks fat, bro. You know what looks fat? His stat line, my guy.
That's right.
All right. Next quick hitter. Week 1, NFL season opens up. First time in a long time, the nation is behind the Lions. And wildly enough, the Lions got the Chiefs week 1. Give me your predictions. What's the score? Don't only just give me the winner. What's the score, baby?
Let me think. How's the Lions defense? Man.
28-17 Chiefs.
Oof. Wow. Okay, that's not a bad scoreline. I want to go 20 to. I don't know. I want to say 27, but I don't know if that makes sense. That's like a missed field goal. No. What's 21 for 24? Yeah, no, 27. 2027 Lions.
I'm going 31-28 Lions. We got some new corners, but Chiefs offense, they're going to put up some points, man.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm excited.
Maybe 24, 28. Yeah. All right. But I can't. I got to go with the Lions. You know, I was there during the 0-16 season, and that was not good for Lions fans.
Yeah, we block those times out. You repress it, you push it down into a jar, you just never think about it, man. You got to repress those terrible times, man. All right, my next question is right off that football tip, right? We're coming up to training camp. We all played football together. What was your least favorite thing about training camp? 2-a-days. What was the thing that really fucking got you?
Dude. Man, you know, we had that on varsity when we were not I think it was because I played fullback, right? But on defense, I was technically still playing defensive tackle. And we had that guy who played nose guard. He also played fullback. He started above Pat.
Oh, Kuthin.
Is it Kuthin? Yeah. So
yeah, it was Kuthin.
Bro.
I'll never forget Jared throwing me that lob pass in front of Kuthin, man. I'll never forgive him for it. And man, set me up for failure.
Like, and when we were in our junior year, practice with him was okay. But like, when we had to, you know, sometimes we do combined practices.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, like, I think it was our sophomore year. That dude just fucked me up one time, bro, during practice. And I still remember that. Boom.
Yeah.
And that was like, fuck. Yeah, but that was probably the worst that I remember.
Yeah, Kuthin was a fucking monster, dude. You didn't want to be standing in front of him.
Yeah.
It was not fun to be around. It was fun to block for, you know, until you didn't turn your feet and then it's over, right? Back, dude. Sam, next on you. What's your least favorite part about training camp?
Thinking back on it, I enjoyed even the sucky times in terms of having to wake up early, doing 3 hours practice.
Bro, but you're telling me you can't think of one thing about that was shitty? I got a list like 40 deep, bro.
Of course, the running sucked. Of course, but you enjoyed the bond building. I don't know, in terms of
the shared trauma.
We're all doing exactly.
They try to act like, oh yeah, no, it's shared trauma.
But I always make deals. I'm a deal maker. You know what I'm saying? I was been making deals since high school. You know, we had deals. I won't be last at this time and get yelled at. That you be last for me and I'll be last in the next one. You know, I had partners in the game to square up against, so we made each other look good. Maybe that didn't help the fact that I could have been a better player, but I made deals.
What about
I
you,
guess
JD?
the worst part would have been Coach yelling. Coach
yelling, yeah. Coach yelling kind of sucks because
that would have been the worst.
I phased that out at some point. I'm always getting yelled at. Yeah. My least favorite thing, right, was like, bro, we're in pads, we're hitting and shit. Wide receivers, running backs telling me about how difficult practice was. Bro, I spent 3 hours moving Towner's big ass, right? Don't even hit each other.
Towner.
Talking about, like, we're going to grab lunch, talking about, like, man, my shoulder hurts. Like, bro, you didn't do any hitting drills, right? Qualm number one. Qualm number two, probably my biggest qualm is fucking blisters, bro. Like, nothing's worse than, like, in between practice, taking those cleats off, and you're like, okay, I got a bunch of blisters. Do I pop it, and then it's just tender, or do I just leave it? Like, there's really no good solution to it, right? Like, you're going through the dog days, right? But, like, it's like, do I want it to scar over? There's really not a good solution, especially, like, lineman, bro, you're hitting the sled, you get like a couple of blisters on like the fucking what do they call it? The pivot point of your foot, bro. You're fucked. Like, I mean, not fucked. You're gonna get through it, but like, bro, it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Especially those New Balance dog shit cleats.
Yeah, I had Under Armour cleats.
And then.
Oh my goodness.
Well, some of us did the team deal, man. We got a team deal.
I did too. And I immediately switched out.
A terrible idea. Yeah, I didn't immediately switch out. It was about week 3 that the bottom of my cleat separated from the shoe of the cleat. So then I couldn't use them, but they were terrible. And to reverse that whole train of thought, favorite training day memories. Like, what outside of the shared trauma, the bonding and stuff, like, what do you guys remember that you really love? Like the hill? Was it like the first time we did tackling drills? You finally, gamed somebody? Like, what are you guys' favorite memories from those dog days in August?
You know what I love about football? I mean, I didn't like what I loved about football. One of the best things that I think the thing that people that didn't play organized sports wouldn't understand is right before the game when you're on the field warming up. It's like,
the music starts going. They cut the lights on.
Like you're about to get into it, bro. Like, and the adrenaline and everything, and you're there, like you're just we're gonna win this game, and that's the mission, man. And I think like that's something that feeling.
On the other team.
Yeah, that feeling is like it hasn't been replicated since. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like that's the reason. Like when we were in college, like we would join like the intramural sports and stuff because you get some of that, but it's not.
Yeah,
the same.
It doesn't hit the same.
Yeah. So I would say that.
For me, it would be just I guess of course, the camaraderie and everything like that is spending time, but the one-on-ones. You know what I'm saying? I rarely lost unless we had a deal. I rarely lost.
One-on-ones is nuts.
Especially that first on varsity, there was that prove it day or whatever day, in terms of you had to make those levels and make it to the king one and then to get off.
Yeah,
in terms of that. And I love that day in terms of training. I love that day.
Yeah, you had the alumni show up. You got the guys from, a fortnight ago. Yeah, standing on the hill. The guys that you watched playing when you were growing up, sitting there looking on the hill, seeing who's going to be the first person on the hill. I mean, I definitely enjoyed that too. Like that spotlight to be like, all right. Like I think senior year, I was like 4th person on the hill. Man, I was sitting out there chest wide, happy as shit, right? My favorite memory though is probably the individual group stuff. Like obviously we talked about the shared trauma and shit like that, right? But like that Tro line, it was different, man. Like like we're sitting out there, especially like the specialists. Like you had the guys that were going to the other side doing their type of stuff. There was like a core set of 7 guys out there just fucking working for each other and shit. And we would get hyped, man. There'd be a thing like at the end of practice, you go into those individual groups, you go to call it up, man, best believe we're out there screaming. We want to be louder than linebackers. We want to be louder than all these other bitches, like that was like, it was a level of competition on the same team. And I appreciated that. And it was something, man, like Eve said, you can't recreate it. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, I was with the running back, so like we were kind of just low key. But
man, well, we would be more low key if we could get the ball on. We don't get that high. We're about to be loud as fuck. This is our time to shine.
Hey, man, before we end the football thing, kickoff. I was on kickoff all the time. I was always on kickoff.
And kick return. I was on kick return with you.
Bro, I fucking love kickoff and kick return though. Like that shit was crazy. It was always weird. Anyway, yeah.
Man, I love when they put me on a hands team.
Oh yeah, you were on hands team.
I did not like when coach told me to not touch the ball, and I'm like, Coach, hands team. We got 10 guys. These are guys with the best hands. He's like, John, you are not out here because of your hands. If you go for the ball, I'm pulling you. I'm like, oh, man, all right.
All right.
Deal. All right. So last quick hitter. I mean, these weren't really quick hitters, but last quick hitter, and kind of a random one. But who's your top UFC guy all time? Who's your favorite fighter?
My guy, my little bro. I saw him in Vegas. My little bro,
Francis Ngannou.
Yeah, I was able to snag a picture. Check out my Instagram if you want my little bro.
Today.
I made him look small.
News came out today. They're saying Francis might be boxing Tyson Fury November 11th. It's nothing.
That would be a terrible decision. Tyson Fury will destroy that man.
Yeah, but it's a money grab. Like, that's why he left the UFC. He wants to get paid.
Good point. But I'm just saying though, Francis looks small against me. Check out my Instagram.
He does not.
Midwest Finest. Midwest Finest. It's in the description.
He does not.
Check out my Instagram. It's in the description. I made him look small. Just say.
Tyson Fury is significantly bigger though. Tyson Fury is about 6'8".
Significantly bigger.
Right? Yeah, but it's a money grab. Like, did you think when Floyd fought Conor was going to win? Conor's not a boxer.
Yeah,
right? Floyd is.
Conor had a better chance. Conor had a better chance.
And neither one of them have a chance.
They're both washed up. No, this is the thing.
No,
and we need to talk about the future of boxing and MMA. Like, we do, because of but not today. But we do have to talk about it. Okay.
There is no future of
the future. It's Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg.
No, it's not happening.
That's the future.
But this is what I'm talking about. You see, this is what I'm talking about.
The UFC needs a union, bro.
Yeah.
The UFC needs a union because clearly those independent contractors cannot negotiate well on their own.
It's celebrity deathmatch.
Okay, so what are you guys' two favorite fighters?
Okay, I don't really watch UFC. I don't know, John Jones. You know what I'm saying, I watch boxing is more my thing.
John Jones, man, one of the greatest. Also, not as good as his brother Chandler, but my top one, it's biased. It's Brock Lesnar, right?
Oh, Brock Lesnar, yeah.
Watch him in WWE. Watch him play for the Vikings. A D tackle. The dude is just a fucking monster.
Yeah.
And so that's my number one. Also, 53-0 in UFC when I play with him. Get that.
Okay. So the large white guy picks another large white guy.
yeah, but he's got better wrestling ability, bro. I'm not tapping nobody out.
Yeah, but I mean, the large black guy picks the large black guy too. So
no large.
Anyways,
no
new topic.
I don't know why it had to be like that. But okay.
I thought that was funny.
All right. So we got through the quick hitters. Let's roll into the topics of the day, man. France, it's in turmoil. It's on fire. Cops shooting kids. People chasing down the mayor of Paris, right? Apparently they tried to break into his house when he wasn't there. His wife and kids were there. They crashed a car into his house and tried to chase her, and his wife broke her leg getting away from those people. So let's dive into it. What's going on? What do you guys know? What are your stances?
Okay.
So
go ahead, Sam.
I do want the latest things in terms of I guess my initial take on this is it's funny how it's spreading in terms of the riot situations in America that it's happening in France in terms of the violence and everything like that. And I'm for it up to a point in terms of that. There's a fine line where the message gets diluted when it's not peaceful anymore in terms of the protest and stuff like that. And it becomes very counterproductive. That's my first take. Second take, when I was doing some preparing for this, there was I guess the president wants to cut off social media during riots in terms of basically go China mode in terms of that, which would set a precedent, in my opinion, in all of this. And then my last take on this is I'd like to hear you guys' opinions on this too. The UN committee also commented on France on the whole situation and calling it the police killing was not was not right. And I agree on that current thing. Maybe violence was not needed in that situation. But I thought it was funny that the UN commented on that, but has it ever commented on any of the U.S. shootings in terms of that? So I thought that was funny. So that's my initial takes on the situation. Where
my question for you. Oh, sorry.
That was it.
I was going to say. So your first take is you said that at some point it becomes counterproductive, right? The violence, the action. Where do you draw the line? What is acceptable protest from people, and when does it become counterproductive?
When it's simple to see, when it's not peaceful, when there's violence and crime happening, because then they'll just immediately use that to attack you. When when they're burning properties, when they're stealing properties, when they're fighting against the police, then I think it's counterproductive, and that becomes a story. The riot becomes a story rather than the protest.
But what is the purpose of the protest other than to draw attention, right? Like if you peacefully protest, and I completely agree with that, and I think that you can get a hold of people and stuff like that. But like, is it more a reaction to what's going on? Like they're so outraged that like these events happen, or what I'm saying? Like how do you you're so outraged you go to protest, but you should like chill out with what you're doing. Like it's difficult to draw those lines. And it is like, I'll be honest, I've been in a couple of protests that got wild, right? Like I came to Lansing. I didn't live here at the time. I was moving back during the BLM riots, and I went over to Cottage Inn Pizza on Washington, downtown Lansing. Let's go grab a pizza, and they're like, no, we're closed. And I'm like, why? And they're like, what? Look outside. They're flipping cars over and lighting them on fire. So it's like, obviously things are shutting down, but I'm saying like, is that more a reaction to people not listening to initial protest, and then you take it another step further? Or like, what exactly, like, is it a non-peaceful protest if you're damaging property? That's my question.
Yeah, that is an interesting one, but Sam, if you want to answer that first.
I mean, history books are made by the silent or peaceful protest from the South Africa, from Martin Luther King, the ones that history remembers and you are glorified for are the peaceful ones. And Gandhi, in terms of all of that perspective, and in terms of how you can go about it and outrage and emotion, I understand in the sense of that emotion, it gets tough. But if you are stoic in that situation, it carries volume in terms of that. That's why if the parents and the family involved are not being violent and retaliating, who's to say their emotion is not greater than anybody else in terms of who they just lost a kid, in terms of that. And in terms of other ways to bring attention, of course, you could do sit-ins. That's going to get, in terms of that. You could just block a street by laying down on it. That's going to do, you can have economic damage without being violent in terms of, you can do a very peaceful one and make it economic damage. And that would be your voice being heard in terms of blocking traffic for a while, in terms of that.
Is there a difference, like you talk about economic damage, is there a difference between somebody burning down a building that a corporation works at where no one's in, no one's been harmed, and, just protesting their product until that building ends up being condemned? Like, is there like obviously there's a difference in activity, but I'm saying
there's crime. One is committing a crime, one isn't. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, but also one is
any crime though. But is the corporation just for conversation take, like, is there not economic crimes that are going on, like the people are harmed by? Should they just wait until one of their legislators takes care of them? Like, yeah, I don't necessarily think it's wrong if no humans are harmed. Obviously, I'm not suggesting people go out there and fuck shit up. I'm just saying that like the sit-ins don't necessarily get the attention that like it's basically the MLK versus Malcolm X, right? The way you're going to look at this, like how do you as a citizen?
Yeah, but John, I get your perspective, but we don't have an Malcolm X day. We have an MLK day for a reason.
Yeah, but the people in power.
Because the people in power want
it. They're not gonna day for the guy that.
But okay, so any history book will talk about MLK before that they do. Anybody that peaceful marches.
That's the same point, though.
Yeah, but in terms of the people in power, whatever, you can say whatever. In terms of, I'll teach my kids MLK's way before I would teach the Malcolm X way. That's just my perspective.
That's fair enough.
You can say the powers, whatever, but I'd love to hear Eeb's take on this, what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. I have a few things on this. I'm gonna France. Not necessarily known. Well, they are really known for. I mean, if you know anything about France, it's because it's the French Revolution, right? So it's part of their history. Protesting is part of their history. It's integral. It happened twice. 2 French revolutions. So I understand that if there's something that's wrong with the government or whoever's in charge in France, they're going to protest because they teach it in schools, right? Worldwide. It's not just they teach it in French schools. So it makes sense that they protest. But let me give a little bit of context on this police killing, right? Because it's similar to America, but in America, if something like this happened, there wouldn't be protests because it's almost normalized. But what's happened is like in 2017, the French government, they actually expanded the police powers, basically made it more easier in terms of policy and law to get away with killing someone. Like they expanded their gun laws, something like that. I don't know the specifics. But basically, ever since that 2017 law, they went from an average of about 2 to 3 police killings a year to this year, which is the highest, which is 13, which is not that much compared to the U.S., but that's like the highest.
That might be Hingham County.
Yeah, but that's the lot in Europe. That's like high. For perspective, Germany, 0 police killings, right? So that's a lot for Europe. So a lot of this is like, I think, this is why policy and politics matters a lot, right? A lot of people say, I don't vote. I don't pay attention to politics. It's useless, but it's not, right? Because the policy in place affects people's actions, which in turn affects people's lives, right? And this is what's happening in France. They're not happy about this, obviously. And the first thing is like the protest itself. I've been in a few protests. Like when I was in college, I was part of the Sierra Club and we protested against fossil fuels in DC. 10,000 of us shut down the streets and all that, peaceful, all that was in the papers. That's about it. Okay. Now, this is obviously not that. This is more akin to the riots, maybe in America a few years ago, the BLM stuff, Antifa stuff, right? And my perspective on that is, I think as long as no one's getting hurt, damage as much property as you want, because the point is to make a point, right? And I understand Sam's take with peaceful protests is what matters and is what's being glorified, and it works, right? We know it works because obviously the Million Man March during civil rights, MLK's time, but they had the benefit of being, I don't know, the non-violent side of the protest, right? If Malcolm X and the more sort of Black Panther sort of coalition did not exist, would that Million Man March and MLK's peaceful protest, because of the juxtaposition, and would they have been propped up? Because I think the people in power said, look, we're definitely not going to cave, but why do we choose the better of two options? And they went with the peaceful stuff, okay? Because you say in history they prop up the more peaceful protesters like Gandhi and MLK, and they do that. And there's a reason for that, because they don't want to glorify the non-peaceful protests, right? So I understand that, despite someone like Gandhi being a huge racist against Africans, right? It's undisputable. Gandhi is a big racist against Africans, but he's propped up in all the history books. If you want to learn about Malcolm X, you won't see him in a history book. You have to do your own thing, research, look at back how smart he was in his old clips. Like, he is a very, very smart, basically a genius IQ guy, right? But he's not being propped up.
Okay. Think of Lansing.
Yeah, and for also Lansing, right? Now, let's go back to the history books where violence protests has worked. Okay, I would argue that the Malcolm X side of the civil rights had a big part to play as well. But also the French Revolution, right? They worked. The guillotines, it worked. And in France, it worked. So it's forever going to work because it's part of their culture, right? They're going to protest. They're going to give a fuck about Macron because they've beheaded kings, let alone presidents, right? So, and also the British Tea Party.
Yeah, bro. You think they would have let this valuable colony go if we just sat in Boston Harbor and we're like, bro, we're just chilling, like.
So it has to work. We know protest works, right? The whole point of having a fair government is so that protest doesn't happen, which can lead to anarchy, which would overthrow the government, right? So I think they should protest, but of course the limit is moral, which is don't get anybody hurt. Yeah. And one more thing about this, which is not being talked about as much, is the rise in racism against minority French people. Now this is exactly, I agree with Sam on this. It becomes counterproductive, right? Like when the BLM starts to destroy property, now on the other side, they have the fuel now, the ammunition to say, look at them. They're a bunch of animals, savages, just destroying property for no reason, when they're actually protesting. So there is a line there. This is the reason I bring it up is because this is happening in France. In France, everybody now is they're no longer French. The black French are no longer French. They're not Africans. Now they're trying to call them, oh, look, this is what happened when we let the savage immigrants into it. It's not just the black people, also it's the Arabs people also, right? Look at these immigrants, refugees relating into our country, destroying our country. Well, how about all the fucking colonies that more than half of Africa was colonized and raped and rampaged by fucking France? How about France has no gold at all in France, but they have they took all the gold in Africa, kept it they still have all that gold in France. All that gold came from Africa. So give all the fucking gold back then, right? But they're not going to do that. So, the hypocrisy there is very obvious and rampant. So I think protest, man.
Okay, so I'll counter the things in terms of the violence situation, and your counter was revolutions that changed. I'm like, revolutions is a very violent thing in terms of that and protesting, and maybe you might need that to get better police system, but you have to definitely know what you're getting into when you are inside in that violence in terms of that. And
my real question is, can you cause meaningful change with peaceful protest?
Yeah, I would argue that you can, and it's been done in history. Yeah. It takes longer and it's slower most of the time.
But not what are examples where it happened peacefully?
I told you South Africa. I told you Gandhi. I told you.
But MLK is not an example of peaceful protest. If you think about the race riots that happened in Detroit in the 60s, like MLK was a leader that preached nonviolence, but that motion wasn't with there were police officers in Detroit, Los Angeles.
There was some bad apples, but like everything that MLK was attached to was peaceful in terms of that. Rosa Parks is a peaceful protest in terms of that. And they took beatings. The sit-ins, they took beatings to make sure that they're peaceful.
Peaceful
when they
on
did
the
the
protester
sit-ins.
side, you mean? More specifically, peaceful
On the
on the
protester
protesters.
side, yeah. They
You
took
can't
beatings.
separate those things, though. Like there are peaceful protesters and there are non-peaceful protesters in that same thing, right? We saw.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
Civil Rights Act of
how would
1964,
yeah,
right?
but there's some organized ones that were peaceful in terms of the full organization was peaceful at the end of the day.
But do you
did
think
it cause change? Yes, I would say that the peaceful ones caused change.
Yeah, but you're like ignoring the fact that there were non-peaceful people. Do you think that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 would have been enacted had there been only peaceful protests? I don't.
Yes.
I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think that the government does anything to change until you actually threaten them.
Yeah, but you did though. It was a peaceful protest. You could have 1 million people walking back then. It's very hard not to deny that. You know what I'm saying? The story of Rosa Parks spread. That's just one woman sitting
story today, but what I'm saying is in the 60s.
But you're discounting how organized the peaceful movement was and how large the peaceful movement was. I'm saying it was very large compared to the minority of the violence. The peaceful movement was way larger. There was no $1 million march, million people march violently doing that. In terms of there wasn't that. The peaceful movement, and there was continuously strategic where they'll do sit-ins they'll go on tours in buses and they'll just do sit-ins at restaurants. Take a beating, get back on buses and go to the next restaurant and do sit-ins. In terms of that's how organized it was. In terms
is there a possibility that the reason why we think that those things are so productive is because that's the story of the pen holder? Right, like
I'm just statistically just talking about numbers. There were just way more peaceful protests in terms of that. It might have been faster or slower. We can argue, but
so they had the million man march, right? The next day, did they sign into legislation? What was going on?
Did they sign it after?
They signed it a week after MLK got shot.
The fact that why did they shoot him though? You know what I'm saying? Why did they shoot him? Because he wasn't violent.
No, because he's the leader. His point. He was a racist.
Yeah, but and that's
what I'm saying is the government.
How the violent proves you contradict your points when you are violent. There's a chance for that when you are violent. When he was so peaceful, and when a peaceful man got shot, it became that much more powerful at the end of the day. Nelson Mandela is not Nelson Mandela if he didn't go to jail for 27 years.
Yeah, but my point is that MLK did the million man march. He preached peacefulness, right? It wasn't.
It takes time, John. Shot. At the end of the day.
But let me finish this. It wasn't until he got shot and they were like, oh, the one guy telling people not to fuck up shit just died. Now they have no peaceful guy telling them everyone stay peaceful. They were worried about what was going to happen, and that's why change occurred. It might not be true, but that is.
But he did. That is your opinion. But why did? I would argue, why do you think that guy got shot in the first place?
Racism. I mean, there was a guy that didn't like what he was saying.
Yeah,
the FBI. Let's talk about the FBI.
It got to a point where the peaceful stuff got to a point where they said that we have to stop this movement because it got so strong. I would argue that it's semantics in terms of that. But in your vision, I would argue when it's violence, sometimes violence is necessary in life. I get that in terms of that. But if you're not really going to go full force and overthrow in terms of the whole regime, I don't think you're wasting cause. If you're only fighting in this specific case of the police, if you are just going to destroy other people's properties in terms of this violence, that's your thing. In terms of this specific case, you are not trying to destroy. And if you're trying to remove the whole government, and that's your cause is to rile up an army, go for it. But this is not it. This is individuals putting crimes to their own name. I would never promote you to destruct your future potential for now, because you get convicted, that's on your record. You know what I'm saying? In terms of if it's not something that I would do, I would never promote it. It's not something you guys promoted. You said you guys were both in protest. Did you guys vandalize?
No, I was in peaceful protest.
No.
Yeah, but I was
saying in order to cause meaningful
but
change, you have to threaten the guy in the throne.
So I would never promote something that I wouldn't do. In terms of, I would never do anything that's not peaceful. At the end of the day, and if it's not being peaceful, I'll leave because I will not associate myself with it. Because at the end of the day, it's counterproductive to my image and my look, let alone for the whole organization. I was never for BLM because of that. In terms of the, it's very counterproductive in my opinion. Because I will never give you ammunition to that. But that's my point.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know how I would react if that person was like a family member or a close friend, right? So, and there's some sort of catharsis in this, like protesting to make a point, because we can say that when it's, you know, when it's an issue or a political issue or something like that, but I don't know how people would react. Yeah, right? But going back to Sam's point though, and your point, John, I think you're both right because like they killed Fred Hampton, change didn't happen, right? Then they killed Malcolm X, change didn't happen. It was only when they killed MLK that change was happening. So what's different between MLK and Fred Hampton and Malcolm X? Well, you know, MLK was the peaceful, and because they lost MLK, then they were afraid that there would no longer be peaceful protests, right? So, I mean, so I think that has a big part of it, and which sort of. And I think in terms of the civil rights, the peacefulness of it is really what made the difference. But I don't know if it would work if it was the only thing that was there. In terms of Gandhi, though, I just want to point out that, yes, it was peaceful, the protest part. But when separation happened and there was and the British left and separation between India and Pakistan, there was a lot of bloodshed. So so I just want to point that out for context.
Cool, Modi.
You got closing remarks, Sean, before we move into them?
No, I think we're good. Next topic of discussion is affirmative action. The Supreme Court heard a case between a lobbyist group facing University of North Carolina and Harvard concerning the application of affirmative action in college applications. So obviously, Clarence Thomas and Brown Jackson, they got into it. They got, a little heated. The Supreme Court hasn't ruled that you can't consider race in an application for college, but they're saying that you can't consider it like on a, check the box, like what is your race, and that that they're going to use it that way. You can still, discuss difficulties that you had during your essays, and I anticipate that a lot of universities will end up kind of weighing their essays a little bit heavier on those things. But yeah, there's a big change in law. We've seen a lot of changes from the Supreme Court. So yeah, what are you guys' thoughts? Sam, if you want to dive in first, go ahead, bro.
Okay, so I'll state some facts first, and then I'll state my opinion in terms of what it is. So this was a Students for Fair Admissions Inc. versus Harvard and UNC, the two oldest universities in terms of that. That is what the case was in terms of that. So one fact is this was founded by a guy named Edward Blum, who is a conservative activist in terms of that. And he has a history of always fighting for fairness and more fairness. And that's what is in terms of that. And I'm not too surprised that a conservative Republican white man is the one that's pushing this in terms of that. And his organization he connects plaintiffs with lawyers in terms of he's a middleman of that in terms of that, where you see there's some unfairness and he connects it. So those are the facts of the case. How I personally feel as affirmative action in terms of that, and I came in with high merits in terms of I had plenty of college credits, I had plenty of high grades going in terms of colleges. If I'm honest, I went to the second one that gave me an acceptance offer in terms of that. And it was a hometown local T school. So I went to MSU. It was not a big decision for me in terms of that. But I did have friends that were growing up in East Lansing that were Asian American and I wasn't there in my classes and top classes and AP classes and how much of a struggle they had. And I know their test scores, I know their GPA, in terms of that. And they were excellent in terms of that. But and this was in 2008 back then, and they were a couple of my Asian American friends were bringing that up to me, saying that they do not even like checking the Asian box or Asian Pacific because it puts them in that category of Asians, and they are being competed against not only as the best Asians in the U.S. but the best Asians in the world, and Asia is the biggest population in terms of they're about 30% between India and China, just alone in terms of that, which are the one and two foreign countries that come to the U.S. for colleges. That competition, it's not fair for them. They felt like they have very limited seats and they are above and beyond the minimum average or the average at that university, but they don't even get in because of that, the negative effects of affirmative action. Where we went to MSU and we all know Sally from Rochester Hills got in, or Bobby from Rochester Hills got in, and who should not have got in. Let's just keep it real in terms of at MSU, in terms of that. So I'm pretty sure that happens at more prestigious universities too, in terms of
especially, yeah.
There's unfair. And if I'm honest, I wasn't bad in terms of my grades, but I was significantly above average. But I wasn't perfect score. But if I had applied to higher schools, I would have had a better chance than my buddy, even though his scores were way higher than mine in terms of that. And that's all it's true. So this being pulled back, it doesn't affect me. You work hard, you eat. And I'm a pro-capitalist society. One thing that does bug me is that this legislation is written by a white man. Well, I guess I shouldn't bug me too much because it's just a context. I would have loved it if it was an Asian guy or a minority guy. But he's pushing for more fairness. And honestly, it helps foreigners out. You do well, you're going to get in. Simple as that.
Should I go? All right. Now, it's funny that let's talk about the why we have affirmative action, right? And supposedly it's because we have an ethnic or a group or culture of people compared to the dominant group or ethnic. In America, the case is white Americans, which on average, right, have maybe a better economic stability in their households or go to typically better schools compared to minority or immigrant or black communities. So there's an advantage there, right? So, and the second factor is maybe in the 50s or the 60s and in the past, the people making the decisions of admissions are predominantly, white people, right? White men, okay? So the affirmative action was sort of a control in which, okay, no, you can't, if you can't take someone that, I mean, we don't live in an ideal world. And unfortunately what happened was that there were a lot more white applicants that would get in, even though they had worse scores than minorities, right? And affirmative action was supposed to control that. All right, but that's not really the case anymore. I would say maybe not. At least in the people making admissions now, they're not just white men anymore, right? And also, um, yeah. So I think that's where it's like if we live in an ideal world, we don't need affirmative action because everybody would just admit people on merit. But I'm afraid we don't live in an ideal world, and I'm afraid that when they repeal affirmative action, we'll go back to how it was, where if there are two people, like a white male versus any other X, they have the exact same, they're a tie basically. 9 times out of 10, I'm afraid that the white male will be taken in. All right, and that's just the issue here for me, and which is why I'm not 100% for repealing affirmative action. Now, in Malaysia, I just want to give some context, and I work in education in Malaysia, right? So they have affirmative action, and in Malaysia, it's slightly different because the predominant race, the Malays, they typically have worse economic standing, right? So they have to have a quota, especially the big schools. They need to take more Malays in to make sure. So a lot of people that are non-Malays would actually, even though they had higher scores, they wouldn't get in. It's almost like the Asian American situation, whereas they have to compete amongst themselves. Whereas if you're a Malay, you don't have to. You're only competing against other Malays, so it's actually easier to get into those schools because they would typically have lower scores. Okay, and so I see both sides. Why I see why we should repeal it and also why we should keep it. But I'm just afraid that in America, I think there will be a time where we will need to we should repeal affirmative action. I just don't think right now is the time. Um, Ideally, I would want to repeal it though, but I think time will have to see. Time will see, and I'm afraid that a lot of the reasoning for this repeal is not actually because we believe that we're in a place where we can repeal it. I believe that the reasoning for this appeal is because I don't know, some forces are afraid that admissions for a certain race are lower and admissions for a certain race are too high, and it's changing the power structure in America. That's just my feeling of it. I do want to mention though that Justice Thompson, who is black, yeah, there's
Thomas.
actually Thomas. Sorry, he there's like a whole there was like a whole
Uncle
profile.
Tom.
There's like a whole
Right, Thomas had it.
profile. There was a whole profile about him on C, and he was that the dude, the senator, I think, or someone. No, the secretary general, or the one who in charge of the NSA, the one with the big mustache. You remember that white dude? He was like, you guys would know if I put his picture up there, but he was his roommate in Yale. He's also a very powerful guy. And like he was saying in the profile that when Thomas was at Yale, he hated it because even though he was like way better than everybody else, people assumed that he only got in for because of affirmative action. Even his other black classmates, because his other black classmates were from wealthy backgrounds, but he was poor. So they assumed he was there because of affirmative action, and he hated that. He hated it so much, which is why
He still hates it.
yeah, he still hates it. Yeah, he still hates it, which makes this is why he voted. This is one of the reasons he voted for it. So I'm still to be honest, I would love to live in a world where we don't need affirmative action. I just don't think America's ready for it yet.
Yeah, I'll be quick about my take. As a white guy, I've never felt like I was held back by affirmative action. I don't feel like it impacted me at all. I got into all the schools that I probably should have, and I didn't get into the schools that I shouldn't have. But I would say the whole purpose of affirmative action is a level playing field, right? And Eeb talked about systematic injustices and how there are definitely people that are not at the same playing field, right? And as some people would quote as a poor white, like you're kind of caught with a double-edged sword because it's like, okay, I'm white, so I have the advantage, but I'm also poor. So it's like it's not like you have the advantages of like somebody with those same connections. And I think like a more just system to level the playing field would not be about like race on its face, right? I think the most just system would be based on socioeconomic status. Now, how you measure that is difficult because you could look at last year's tax records. That's different. Like you could have, you could live up in a house, like your parents make $300K, they lose their job and you were poor last year, then you would get an advantage for college, admissions. I'm not saying that's right. But what I'm saying is like, if me as a kid, if I'm on, if I live in Section 8 housing and I have, I'm living off food stamps and I get a 3.5 and a 32 on my ACT, Chet from fucking, private school that gets that same 3.5 and that same 31, we should not be equal because he had tutors, he had all the resources available, right? So you have to somehow level that playing field. I don't think that race is how you judge it. I also understand that it's difficult to measure somebody's socioeconomic status. Like, do you measure it like were they at a difficulty in their young life? Like, it's fucking impossible to develop a system that levels the playing field. But the purpose was to level the playing field, right? And I don't think that race, like, you can't just take one variable and be like, oh, that's the box, because there's plenty of wealthy minorities that had resources that other people don't have, right? And like I said before, I don't think that played into any situation that I was involved in. And either way, I think that the schools do a good job at justifying who should be there. I never heard of too many, I heard of people getting into the school that I was like, oh, you probably shouldn't be here with me. But I never heard about that and somebody else where I was like, man, you were smart as fuck. You didn't get in. It was more like there was just some people there that shouldn't have been there, right? But I think there's a better way to measure it as far as what is justification for I think there's a better way to measure intelligence, to be honest with you. I don't think the ACT and GPA. I think that the most of our system measures obedience and not intelligence. If you show up to school in high school, you're gonna get B's. I met plenty of smart people that were just like, this isn't stimulating, and fucking walked away. I don't think education necessarily dictates intelligence. And I think that the system could do better about evaluating with that intelligence. Obviously, IQ tests are not it, but there's a way to analyze it. I have a bias. I went to law school. I think the LSAT does a good job at that, and I think that would be a good measurement for intelligent. The way to you want to measure somebody's ability to intake information, synthesize, turn it around. Right? I think that's. A lot of high school is about rote memorization. If you have a good memory, you're going to get great grades, regardless of whether or not you understand the material, right? I think that there's a lot of revamping to do. So I don't really have a problem with us getting rid of affirmative action, but I think that while we're looking at it, let's figure this out. There are a lot of dumb people in schools that don't deserve to be there. I think the bar for every school should be higher, and we could dive into this in another educational podcast, but I honestly think that schools are just open doors because every loan is federally guaranteed. Yeah. Schools are just letting folks in so they get their paychecks and stuff. I think that schools should be paid for by the government, but it should also be super fucking difficult to get in.
Yeah, imagine. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Imagine if the schools didn't give if the government paid for people to get into schools, but they don't give loans out. It's all scholarship based.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Germany, you have to get great grades to get into that fucking engineering program. If you don't, you're not there. They have 1,000 spots. You're either in or you're not, and if you're not, you're in a different program. Yeah. As soon as the schools realize all the loans are federally backed, they open the fucking doors. Michigan State's acceptance rate now is 85%. It was not that way.
It was not that when we
when we got there.
It was 50.
It was not that way before. Bro, they're like, bro, you got a pulse? Back your hand, bro. Come on the fuck in, bro. They're letting everyone in so that they can get paid. Let's up the standard. Let's up the bar. Bro, not everyone should be going to school. Some people should be going to trade school. We don't have enough trade people. You know why? Because Michigan State's fucking letting everybody in, and every other school is doing the same way, bro.
Right.
Well, sorry, that's a long rant.
I do have some things to say. Sorry.
Yeah.
That we don't end this part. Yeah. I want to ask first, just to be clear. affirmative action, does it count for gender? No, it's just race.
In that lawsuit, it was race and ethnicity.
Okay.
In that
Yeah,
lawsuit
but
only.
also, I think that
Because females get more jobs than guys.
Yeah.
Just females go to college more than guys. It's just statistics on that. Things like 52%.
Yeah.
But I also
across
think
the board.
Have been misconstruing that
Whatever race, and that's across the board. Whatever race, there's more females than guys.
Okay.
But I think we were misconstruing how when Sam was talking about how race works, and he was like, "Oh, they're Asian people. I'm afraid to check the box." Like, when they're looking at the numbers, they aren't like, "Okay, I have X number of spots for Asian Americans. I have X number of spots for blah blah blah." The way I understand it is there are like bases for being non-white. Like, I think regardless, like there's the white box, there's a non-white box. You get points for being in the non-white box. I don't think that they're like putting up the Asian and being like, oh, well, this guy got a 4 point. He didn't get a 4 point. But John, who's got a 3.1 is in because we already got 1,000 Asians. Like, I'm not necessarily, I'm not sold on that.
I completely disagree with you on that because I've looked at those entries in terms of admissions. They have to follow similarly in terms of proportions. They try to match the population in terms of it. They try to in terms of the best they can from the applicant pools that they have in terms of that. But somebody's significantly below that applicant pool, then they can't do if there's a group. So in terms of there's a huge influx. I'm not saying that Africa's trying to come to American colleges or anything like that. That they are in terms of that. But the amount of foreigners coming to colleges, I don't know the statistics, but I could easily say, just based on world population, that majority of them are going to be Asian populations. And that's who they directly compete against.
Students in college?
Foreign students, foreigners, international students are Asians. Majority of them are going to be Asian. It's just statistics.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but what I'm saying is I don't think that,
I would say that it's 2 to 1.
I need 1,100 Asians this semester.
They might not have the quota, but in terms of how many spots that they can give, they can't have an Asian population as 20%.
I think the way it's a point system, like you're getting points for things, right? Like, and I think that's a situation.
They're basing their percentages when it's affirmative action. They're basing their percentages, and it should emulate the percentages of the population.
No, but like my buddy Elliot worked for UW-Madison for their admissions office, right? He implied that there's no number of people they're looking for certain things. But it's a grading system. It's like if you're grading a paper.
Yeah,
like you get a certain number of things for intro.
But they still
that's weird, JD.
The law of affirmative action is by percentages.
I looked into Wisconsin recently, and at some other schools, and like there are schools that go above and beyond affirmative action. I think Wisconsin is one of them. I think they highlight the fact that their student population is very close to the proportions in the United States, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because I was looking at potential PhD.
It can't be true, man. There are not that many minorities at Madison.
I know
that's why that
was very hard.
That's why because they don't have
very hard to get in for an Asian guy. Because Taewook was one of our friends. He was a year older than me. He was in all of my AP classes. In terms of that, he had 33 or 34 in his ACT and everything, above a 4.0 student. He got denied for University of Wisconsin.
Interesting.
Which is wild.
I just wanted to say my last thing on this is like, if we are gonna pretend we live in a world where everything is fair and balanced, and everybody picks themselves off their own bootstraps.
I don't live in that world.
Yeah, but if we're gonna pretend like it and repeal affirmative action, then we should also repeal legacy admissions, because there's no way people like George W. Bush should have gotten into Yale. If it wasn't for his...
I get what you're saying. But when you're the president's son, the fucking rules are different, bro.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And that's
true, though.
Not only that, if you're paying your way...
If you get rid of legacy admissions, he's still getting in.
No, I know. It's an extreme
example. Not only that, though. If you're paying your way, the rules are different.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not checking that financial aid.
If you're paying cash.
If you're paying cash,
I don't think that should. I don't think money should imply. I don't think money should be a factor, though.
It shouldn't.
I'm not
but
saying it should.
These schools need to do research. They need to do research
in terms of that. One more thing before we move on to topics. So, in terms of that, I'm with Uncle Tom on this 100%. Clarence Thomas, whatever. In terms of this, I hated that affirmative action. In terms of that, so much so, in even to this day, any job applications, any application on race, I'm clicking other. I'm clicking other.
But I've always done that. Me and you have a disadvantage in which our names show that we're a minority.
Yeah, true. I mean, if you make a decision based on names, but they're not going to siphon me from a computer, which most of them will siphon you from an Excel or computer.
Bro, they won't. No, but bro, they won't. Like if they automate it to the point where you click on a race and it disadvantages you, that's an IT audit that's traceable. They won't do it.
Okay, so my other thing on this is, while I do want, like, I know I'm on the pro affirmative action as of now side, but I do want to mention, to be fair, that they did not say that race will never be a factor. Like, if it's like something part of your personality and a part of your character, it's going through adversity because of your race. They'll definitely consider it.
They'll consider it in essays.
Yeah, in essays and stuff.
And honestly, the way universities are, they want to consider it to begin with, right? The Supreme Court said you can't. I guarantee you, over the next 5 to 10 years, universities will be way more, like they'll pay way more attention to those essays.
Yep, they will now.
Yeah, because they want to bring it in. Mm-hmm. With the Supreme Court,
there's value to it. Of course, there's value to diversity. Yeah, so they have to bring it in.
Yeah, the more diverse opinions you have, but yeah.
All right. I think that was a good one, man. I think I'm interested to see where this goes.
Wait, so Eeb, what did you mark down on those boxes when they asked for race?
From what I understand, this is what I wanted to say. I forgot. Okay, from what I understand, how it was when we were getting to college is different than how it is now. Because back then it was just Asian American or Pacific Islander in one category, right? So that means if you're Arab, if you're Eastern Asian, if you're South Asian, if you're Southeast Asian like me, or if you're from fucking New Zealand, or or like those Pacific Islands, you're all in the same group, which always bugged me, because I was always like, because I mean, come on, even in East Lansing, right? 35 was that guy Charles, 35 on his ACT. His older sister got a 36 on his ACT, and he was pissed about that. And like a lot of the Asian
that was a choice.
Yeah, but a lot of the Asian Americans, a lot of the Asian Americans do like, it's really high competition, and but I did put in Asian because I'm a psycho, and I think like. Because there was an option of other, but I did put in Asian because I thought, you know what, if I can't make it because of my merit and competing with these guys, then I can't make it. And like, but I had an advantage, and I'm in legacy admission. My mom did her PhD at MSU, so I and so did I think your mom, right? You would be technically legacy too, right, JD? So like, I did not finish my application for Madison. It's just the only other school I was planning to apply to, but I didn't. And I didn't have a background school, so I lucked out, I guess. That was my only place I applied to. I do
have a correction.
Yeah.
Taewwook did get accepted to UW and went to UW in terms of, I was thinking back on it. That's one in terms of, but he got denied. Taewwook got denied from Harvard, MIT, Stanford, and Johns Hopkins, which were all of his upper choices. But he did like UW also when he visited them in terms of that.
Top 10.
He got a 34.
Yeah, but like those Ivy League schools are so tough, dude. Like they won't even take two people from the same school. They won't even take two people from the same region sometimes. Like,
it wasn't Charles and his sister both got into MIT.
No, they didn't go to the same school.
Both of them got to MIT.
They were both accepted to MIT, but they did not.
They both got accepted to MIT.
Yeah, but they both didn't go to MIT.
I think one might have went to Harvard if the other one went to MIT.
Yeah.
In terms of that. Oh, big difference.
Yeah, but I mean, if you get 35 if you get 35, 36 on your ACT, it's not a race thing. So
Eeb was mad. Eeb was mad about how they split out the categories, right? It went Asian, then it went Asian or Pacific Islander, right?
No,
How come there's only one group for white people? There's a lot of different white people, bro.
Yeah, John. So that was a closing question. Are you proudly checking white and everything?
Ancestry,
or are you proudly checking white on everything, or do you hesitate and be like, I want to pick water?
The people
I want to pick other. You do have one of like the most whitest names.
If it won't let me not answer it, I'll go for it. If it gives me that, it keeps me back with that error. Like, bro, you didn't click a box. I'm like, all right, I'm white.
The people of the mountain of Caucasus.
yeah,
but like,
you can't go the same fucking mountain, dude. Bro,
but you literally have the widest name.
Thing. Oh yeah. Bro,
JD, John Doe.
Best believe on all my applications, it's not John, it's Jonathan, bro. It's official.
Yeah, John Doe.
No, John has his own adversity because you're in the group of where typically you would have like you said, the poor white versus the rich white person. Like you typically have a lot of competition already because of the social status, economic advantages. Yeah, so I understand.
There's
that
an assumption there. Yeah.
All right. So
closing topics.
We had something else after this, I think.
It was the sports one, but I think we should move on since we already covered it in the beginning.
Okay, but we then, in that case, quickly on Keke Palmer. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know what happened. All right, I just want your opinion. So Keke Palmer, if you guys know, she was in the movie Nope, right? And she's been famous since she was young, Akilah and the Bee, and all that. And she
show the picture.
Yeah, I'll try to look for it. She has a baby with her boyfriend. Okay, she has a baby with her boyfriend. Oops. But then she also went to this Usher concert, right? And at the Usher concert, she went and she was serenaded by Usher. And all right, I'll Google it. She was serenaded by Usher, and what she was wearing as well, right? What was very revealing. Okay, like I don't. Yeah, so like she turns around and basically this is a see-through dress, and it's basically like a thong, right? And she was like all up on Usher, and this dude right here immediately went to social media saying like, oh, she's a mom and she has, we're living in a society where...
Who's that dude?
Her baby daddy. So the father of her child.
He was also her girlfriend.
Her boyfriend at the time, right?
Yeah.
And he complained that she shouldn't be wearing revealing outfits. She shouldn't be out here getting serenaded by Usher. She has a baby at home and like she has a boyfriend. So, and then like after this, she ended up posting this photo, basically saying like, but like fuck you to the boyfriend. And now the boyfriend has they basically broke up. Like they've unfollowed each other and removed all photos of each other on the socials. So, what do you think, man? Like do you think it was okay for her to get serenaded
if you can pull up the tweet in terms of the boyfriend's tweet, that'd be great, but I'll talk as you look for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
In my opinion, baby girl, you can do whatever you want. With a kid or without the kid, you can do whatever you want. In terms of that
hold on, let me show it.
And I like the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
I like how he said it best in terms of you're a representation of me in terms of that when you're out in public, and you're a representation of our family and our values and our kid.
So
in terms of that, when we are linked together, you know what I'm saying? So, baby girl, you can do whatever you want, but you're a reflection of our family name and my name at the end of the day when we are together. If you're damaging that image, I'm out. He says, this is my family. This is my representation. I have standards and morals for what I believe in.
Do you
go ahead, read the whole thing?
Let me ask you. Okay, so he said, we live in a generation where a man of the family doesn't want the wife and mother to his kids to showcase booty cheeks to please others, and he gets told how much of a hater he is because he got backlash. This is my family and my representation. I have standards and morals to what I believe in. I rest my case. So before you say anything more, Sam, I want to ask you. I brought this up. I really want on your guys' opinion because I'm torn. They are not married. They are not married, right? So is she part of the family? Like, I know that they're a family because they have a child, but are they a family unit in the traditional
sense? They were
sense?
dating, though. They were dating in terms of that. Now they're not dating.
Now they're
at the end of the day, that's my point. You can do whatever you want if we're not dating. You know, at the end of the day, if we're not dating, you can do whatever you want in terms of your representation. And you're not my representation anymore. You know what I'm saying? You're still the mother of my kid, and I'll be more like taking care of it more. I'll use this as, okay, you want to go out more? Fine. I'll spend more time with my daughter. It's fine with me. You'll have whatever arrangements in terms of that. You'll have more time to see your daughter, or you have more privileges to see your daughter. But I completely agree. The last part says it is and this is my standards and my morals for being in a relationship with you. In terms of that, I wish he had gotten that before having a kid involved, but that's not the case in terms of that.
I'm saying, you had a child with this woman, and she has full autonomy in her life, right? She can do what she want to do. If I was a kid, I wouldn't necessarily want her to be acting that way, but at the same point, she has full autonomy. She's, a grown ass woman, could do what she want to do. Choose your mates wisely. What I gotta say.
Yeah.
Would you stay with her though? That's the big question, John.
I wouldn't have got with her. That's not the mother of my children.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. Like, as much as I want to live in this ideal world, I think my heart wouldn't be able to take it, right? So I'd be like,
yeah, I wouldn't want about, but like, honestly though, like, you can't say like, and it's gonna come off misogynistic, but like I'm saying, like, based on the way that she was acting and stuff like that, you can't say that you, like, this was the first time anything ever happened. Like, you didn't go to the club and think like,
right,
well, you're not dressed like I'm saying that before this, where I don't know her history, but I'm guessing she wasn't modest with, like, Amish, like, knee-high fucking dresses, like,
yeah.
So I'm saying, like, that's the woman that you had a child with, bro, and she has, like I said, she's a grown ass woman. Like, you can make her decisions. You have no control over it. So she can do what she wants to do. That was your decision to have a child. Like, if that's not the way you wanted your quote unquote family to be represented, then you needed to pick a different mate to have a family with. Like, and that's her choice to do her thing. Like, I wouldn't end up in this situation, and I'm not blaming her or shaming her. She's living her life, and I'm sure this is how she's been living her life. I'm just saying that that's not the life that I want to live, so I wouldn't be involved with it. But, like, he's sitting here now being like, oh, now that we had a kid, you can't be acting like this. Like, bro, that's not your choice. Like, that's, like, she's a grown-ass woman. Like, can make her own fucking decisions. Like, just like if I had a chick with, like, if I had a kid with a chick, and she started telling me how to live my life or how I was representing myself, like, if we're not together, we're not married or something, you have no decision-making power in the way that I live my life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the only thing that screwed him up a bit is he brought it to Twitter. Like, I think.
Also, yeah, that's another thing, man. This man should not be in the fucking comments. Like, dude's like, yo, the internet's dragging me. Like, bro, I'm not a celebrity, never been one, right? But I can say, like, confidently, if I was ever a public figure, I wouldn't read a single fucking comment board. Because I've read comment boards and I'm not famous. People are brutal.
Yeah,
people are fucking terrible, bro. Like,
John goes to war. John goes to war.
Yeah.
In these comments.
And it's a brutal fucking area, man. It's a war zone, bro. You're in the trenches, like World War I, 1918 type of shit, bro. You don't want to be in the trenches, bro. Take that trench foot, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, that's why I got off Facebook for a long time.
Yeah.
All right.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Recommendations for this week. What you guys got?
Ooh, is that okay? Hold on. What do we? Is it recommendations and final words? That's it, right?
Yeah, those are the two. We'll do
Okay,
recommendations and final
All right,
words
all right.
afterwards.
Go ahead, Sam.
So, in terms of recommendations, the new Tom Segura, John, the comedian.
Tom Segura.
Segura,
Yeah,
yeah.
hilarious. The
Okay.
new one on
Also,
Netflix, hilarious.
I kind of turned on Segura though, man. I listened to him and Rogan's podcast today, right?
What'd he say?
And man, it was just like they started going after Dominion voting apparatuses, the things that Fox News got sued $785 million for talking shit about.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, bro, I think they're susceptible. It was like, I'm a big Rogan fan. I back his shit a lot. This man went on there and was like, yo, I'm reading online that like maybe these voting systems are a little easy to hack into. Like, bro, it's not. They literally went to court for it. Like you're
Rogan said that?
propaganda. Yeah, man.
So you turned on Rogan too?
Bro, I was maybe an hour ago. I was outside smoking a cig. I had it on and I was like, man, I've been your biggest backer.
So he was saying that there was election fraud by Dominion?
That's not what he said.
Well, no. He was saying it's highly susceptible and likely. And I was like, bro, I thought we moved past it. I thought you were a capable person of looking at the data. But, it is what it is, man. I did not like that particular podcast. And I will say, like, as a big Rogan guy, and me and Rogan do not see eye to eye on a lot of terms. I've been open-minded and listening to him. But when he said that, I was like, man, you're feeding in, like, he's feeding into the people that fucking love him, right? And it's like, I liked you because you weren't CNN, you weren't Fox, you didn't, like, lean into your followers and shit. And then I'm starting to see, like, bro, it's for the clicks. Like, it's not, you don't believe that shit. We know you don't believe that shit.
Yeah, my views on Rogan.
Another recommendation that I have is so Tom Segura, it was a great comedy one. And I fell asleep and I watched it again this morning in terms of that. And then The Witcher. I like The Witcher. In terms of books, did I read any books? No. I've not started a new book yet. So that's it.
All right, let me go since you said Witcher. I was going to say yes.
Have you watched The Witcher? You liked it?
I read all the books, right? So The Witcher season 3, first half was very strong. I immediately, it's only the first half, but I immediately love it more than the second season. They're trying to course correct a bit to be closer to the books, and the way they've done it was entertaining. And knowing what's going to happen immediately after the finale, oh man, I was kind of pissed that I have to wait a month. But that's not my recommendation. My recommendation is I recommend everybody to read The Last Wish, which is the first Witcher book published. It's not the first in the series, but it is. It's like The Witcher, it works as like, it started out as short stories, and the first book is a compilation of the short stories, and it builds up to the series. So I recommend The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, which is the first Witcher book in the collection. So that's my first recommendation. My second recommendation is I had something, but I forgot it. So that's my recommendation. I'll bring up the book in a second.
Yeah, I don't have a specific, but I mean, I have a couple of books I'm reading right now, but I don't have a specific recommendation for our audience other than just to be better civic activists. Go into your look at your local politics, look at what's going on, be more involved. Like, nobody wants to be involved. Who the fuck is your alderman? Nobody knows. You don't know your alderman. Nobody knows their thing. Get more involved. Be in there. See what's going on. Be a part of the system before you check out and walk away. That's my recommendation. Be a better civic activist.
All right. So go ahead, Sam.
No, I was just going to go to words of recommend, last words.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, for me, last words is so this week's was challenging in terms of motivating, in terms of being disciplined. But what has helped me is reaching out to different people that I've already set up great accountability partners in all aspects of the life, business, personal, faith. And so I check in with him about once a week, and I did end up checking in with him that later on the week and put things into perspective. So in terms of your circle, make sure that there's people checking in on you and keeping you accountable at the end of the day, not just pawns and whatever yes men's. Make sure there's some people checking in on you, making sure that they can have the hard conversation with you to help you grow, especially when you are being challenged.
Okay. Eve, do you want to go?
Yeah. I think especially in the last maybe week or two, I've been, work-wise busy, and then like I have some issues also with my visa issues, and a lot of things can be demotivating.
Report your ass back to US.
A lot of things can be demotivating, and sometimes I feel like why am I even like doing this? And like my mind is a dark place. I try to stay out of it for most of the time because it's just too much. But like don't forget that you can get through it. You just have to sit down and just get it done one at a time. So I want to say just persevere, and then in a couple weeks those troubles will, it'll sort itself out if you do the right thing. So that's all for me. I think I've just been, I think, spending too much time like because of Diablo, not focusing, and my papers, not writing my papers, my time management. So I just feel like if you are going through that time right now, just give it time, just sit down and do what you need to do. You don't have to solve all the problems. Just solve one problem.
Yeah, and I'll kind of steal from both of them. I would say, be positive, right? There is like if no matter what's going on in your life, you spend enough time thinking about it, you could blame yourself for anything, right? And I think it's important to remember like your value, and not like it's a natural reaction, a natural human reaction to kick yourself. And I'll just say this week, like be positive, surround yourself by good people, like surround yourself with good people, and keep moving forward. Like don't kick your own ass too much. Like we all like to do it, right? But you can pull a hammy, keep kicking your ass like that. So I would say just be positive, surround yourself by good people, or surround yourself with good people, and things will work out.
Yep, good words. This is the last wish. It's very philosophical and very witty. Andrei Sapkowski, one of the best writers ever. And if you're not into reading, then play Witcher 3. It's one of the best games ever made. So, all right.
Love y'all.
Love you guys.
Peace.
Take it easy.